What is going on, everybody? So, if you can tell by the title of the video, I've not gotten around to making my best of 2022 list, but I thought while keeping you all in anticipation that I would have some fun and give you the worst films that I watched in 2022. As I say with all my ranked list videos and everything else that I do, this is obviously my opinion. It is very difficult to make a movie. It is very hard to make a movie, but sometimes there are movies that are just bad. And it's unfortunate because I want to like every movie that I watch. It just doesn't happen that way. So I compiled a list of unlucky number 13. 13 films that I watched this year, and I'm going to do them from my least favorite to the worst film I watched the entire year, just because I have fun with that. So I'd love it if you comment and let me know what the worst films you watched this year were. I always love reading those types of things and knowing how different people's opinions are. And so without further ado, let's get into it right now. Coming in at number 13 is a film I didn't really know anything about before I went into watching it, and that is the film Incantation. This is an Asian horror film that is a found footage movie. And whenever you say found footage to me, I always really look forward to it. And this movie failed on virtually every level. There were a couple of moments that had some scary imagery that I really appreciated, but this movie was like a 2-hour runtime, and it was so bloated. The storytelling was so disjointed. It was an absolute mess. And by the end of the film, I'm just like, what are you trying to accomplish here? Because you didn't manage to accomplish anything that left a mark on me. I just felt like I completely wasted my time. Coming in at number 12 is the film Slap Face. This is a Shudder original movie about these two brothers who have lost their parents. They're living together, and the one brother is constantly acting up, and he ends up going into the woods and discovering this weird creature who becomes overprotective of him. And the story just has some little supernatural elements injected throughout it. It's mostly boring. The dialogue is incredibly laughable. And this was one I love Shudder. I really appreciate them, and they put out some stinkers this year. And this was one of them. And you will see a few Shudder original movies on this list that were stinkers, but this was one that I forgot moments after I watched it, and it's just not worth your time. Coming in at number 11 is the film We Need to Do Something. I don't know why this movie was made. It is incredibly boring. The dialogue is horrible. It all takes place in one room, which is clearly a product of COVID times, I'm assuming. I'm not sure when they shot this movie. It's not suspenseful. It's not scary. The storytelling elements are just really bland. And by the end of this, I was just like, why does this movie even exist? It really doesn't accomplish anything. It's not scary. The performances are all really bad. And I don't know. This is one of those movies that I wanted to like because I love small scale horror films, similarly like the Shudder original movie released this year, Glorious, that almost all took place inside of a bathroom. That was really entertaining, although it wasn't perfect. I still really enjoyed it. This one was just bad in every way, and I will never be watching it again. Coming in at number 10 is the film The Scary of 61st. This was done by a podcaster about these two women who move into Jeffrey Epstein's old apartment, and weird stuff starts taking place. This film was shot beautifully on 16mm film, but it was a film that thought it was saying a lot that was absolutely saying nothing at all. It was really just weird for the sake of being weird. I feel like they were trying to make some sort of statement by one of the women being overtaken by one of the teenage girls that was kidnapped by Jeffrey Epstein, but none of it really pays off. The end of the movie is so head-scratchingly confusing. It was like it wanted to be possession or something, and it can never be possession. This was so laughable in the sense that the dialogue was so cringeworthy. It was clearly, you could tell it was written by a podcaster who does not have a lot of experience in the film world. And yeah, I'm not sure why anyone liked this movie. It was just really bad. Coming in at number 9 is the film Emergency. I had a lot of people on TikTok recommend this one to me, and it was just bad. It was a film that was trying to be an overt social commentary that it didn't work in any way, shape, or form. This entire situation could have been cleared up with one phone call. It was like stretching itself so thin. All of the characters were so unlikable. The dialogue was terribly written. By the end of this movie, I just kept looking at my phone, checking the time, because I was like, is this done yet? Like, it hasn't provided anything to me. It hasn't really resonated on a level like a lot of films that view stereotypes towards the African American community that have been made over the past several years that are so amazingly well executed, that have such poignant commentary. This one tried and it just failed on every level. Coming in at number 8, another Shudder original film, The Cellar, starring Alicia Cuthbert. This film had some cool imagery in it, but for the most part it was just really boring with cringy dialogue. It ended up with this weird, like, otherworldly stuff that was introduced that really didn't work whatsoever. The creature design in it was okay, nothing too spectacular, and I just found myself bored through most of this one. Shudder really didn't do a very good job with this movie, picking this one up. It's not one that I would ever revisit again. Coming in at number 7, probably one of my more controversial takes, but Bodies, Bodies, Bodies from A24. This movie sucked, and I mean sucked. I saw this with a double feature at the movie theater. I was so amped up because the first movie I watched was so good, and I watched this and I just left thinking, why was this movie made? Everyone's like, you don't get it, it's satire. No, it's overt satire that's not even well written. This is supposed to be a commentary on the Gen Z culture that fails in virtually every way. We get it. You're an unlikable, wealthy kid that has parents that take care of your entire life. We're not supposed to like you, but say something more with it. I think of the Shudder original film Sissy that was released this year that had the same type of commentary but was executed so well, with characters that were fascinating and with a third act that actually worked. This one, like, I guess to the end, like halfway through the movie, and most of the scenes were just people walking into a room and saying, oh my god, who killed this person? And then the next scene and the next scene, and it was just so bloated. This movie could have been 15 minutes long and it would have been the exact same film. I'm not sure what people are getting out of this one. It just sucked to me. Coming in at number 6, another Shudder original film, The Twin. This movie was laughably bad. The dialogue was so cringy. There were so many moments that were actually so bad it's good that I found myself like, yeah, this is getting in schlock territory. It's super easy to guess the ending in this one. It was really dumb, but it ended up not having enough so bad it's good moments in it for me to like recommend anyone to watch it. It's just really bad. Coming in at number 5 is the Netflix original film Senior Year. Do I really have to say anything about this movie? It's a stereotypical comedy that has no comedy in it whatsoever. I feel like the entire cast in this movie was awful. Their line delivery was terrible. This was like a 2-hour-long movie. If you're going to make this type of a film, keep it to an hour and a half. No one wants to watch 2 hours of this content, especially when it's so poorly executed. Coming in at number 4 is the Firestarter remake. This movie was an absolute mess. I don't know if there was a lot of studio interference with this one, but it just was terrible. I feel like there were so many corny moments in this. The dialogue didn't work. The overall story was just bland. The settings in this were so weird, like the places they chose to end up. I was just like, was the production budget that low that you couldn't find anywhere more interesting to shoot? I don't know. It just was not good by any means. This was one of the most forgettable films of the year, and I understand why any and every person that watched this movie didn't like it, because it was just really bad. Coming in at number 3 is Minions: Rise of Gru. I have seen the first 2 Despicable Me movies, thought that they were cute enough. This is just getting to a point where Illumination wants to sell toys. There is nothing interesting about this movie. The characters are all bland. The story was so rushed. By the end of the movie, I was like, this is a movie? Like, this is what constitutes as a children's film now? It's so forgettable in every way. And even Gru, who's the character that people are supposed to attach themselves onto, was so unlikable and stupid in this movie. And I'm not sure what anyone got out of this, if they really enjoyed it. I know it was a huge meme for a really long time, but I just thought it sucked. And I left the theater thinking, why did I suffer through an hour and a half of this? I'll never watch it again. Coming in at number 2 is the film Do Revenge. This is a perfect example on why adults should not write dialogue for teenagers. This movie was trying to do the same type of thing as Bodies, trying to be a commentary on Gen Z culture. But when you have 25-year-olds playing high school kids, it really doesn't work out. Almost everything in this movie was super cringeworthy. The story was so long and overblown. Every character in this was unlikable. You couldn't root for anyone because they were all such miserable people. And by the end of the movie, I was like, I don't care what happens to either of these people because they deserve whatever they get because they're all terrible human beings that deserve it. And I just really don't understand what anyone saw in this movie. It wasn't charming. It wasn't really like a super positive message for the LGBTQ community. And I know a lot of people were trying to champion it for that. And it definitely was not that. I barely remember most of it. I just remember being incredibly irritated and annoyed with this movie. And yeah, I would never recommend this to anyone. There's a ton of films that came out this year that are way better. And my number one least favorite film of the year, and possibly one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my existence on this planet, is Dashcam, a found footage horror movie that gives an ultra right-wing conservative an hour and a half to spew misinformation about vaccinations. It was probably the stupidest movie I watched all year. None of it was scary. It was like so jarring that it would jump one location to the other. There's a period of time where a random character shows up and continues filming for no reason whatsoever other than they just do it. It's just absolutely terrible in every way. And despite the idiotic political beliefs that are being spewed from the lead character and how unlikable and obnoxious she is, this is so stupid. There are so many found footage films that execute this type of material 1,000 times better, that have likable characters, that are engaging and entertaining. Watch those movies. Hell, watch the original Paranormal Activity. It's 1,000 times better than this trash. And I know a lot of people liked the director's first movie, Host. I thought it was not that great. Similarly, I'm like, why are these people still filming? It doesn't really make any sense. And this movie just tanked, and I will never watch anything put out by this group of filmmakers ever again. I just thought that it was really bad, and I'm not sure why this exists. Avoid this one at all costs. So what are the worst films that you watched this year? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know your opinions and what films just really irritated and irked you. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.